Hi everyone. So today let's begin with discussing about the brain. The first topic which I would like to pick up in the brain is the cerebrum. Cerebrum is the largest part of the human brain and it is a highly convoluted bilobed structure. Means that it consists of two lobes, as you can see in the figure very clearly that the cerebral hemisphere consists of two lobes, the right and the left lobe. These two lobes are separated by the longitudinal cerebral fissure and are connected by the corpus callosum. What I mean to say is that these two right and the left lobes, which you can see in the figure, will be separated by the longitudinal cerebral fissure. That is, the longitudinal cerebral fissure will separate these two lobes. But this separation of the lobes is not complete. That is, the lobes are only separated in the front and at the back side of the cerebrum, but not in the center. Just what I mean to say is that in the center, the lobes won't be separated from each other, while in front and at the behind, these two lobes will be separated from each other. Corpus callosum will connect the two lobes together. That is, it will keep these two lobes connected together. Okay. Coming to the external features of the cerebrum. Cerebrum consists of poles, surfaces, borders, sulci and gyri. Okay. Now let's talk about the detailings of all what I have told you right now. First of all, let's talk about the longitudinal cerebral fissure. The longitudinal cerebral fissure is a median cleft, and as I have already told that it separates the two cerebral hemispheres but not completely. Now various structures are present within this longitudinal cerebral fissure, that is falx cerebri. Now falx cerebri is a sickle-shaped fold of dura mater. Next, anterior cerebral arteries and veins also occupy the longitudinal cerebral fissure. Fold of arachnoid and pia mater are also present within this longitudinal cerebral fissure. Now see, fissure means a groove separating the two structures. So similarly, longitudinal cerebral fissure is a groove which separates the two cerebral hemispheres. Coming to the corpus callosum. Now corpus callosum is nothing but simply a bulkier mass of the white matter which connects the two lobes of the cerebral hemisphere. Okay. Now talking about the external features, but before that I would like to tell you about the layers of the cerebral hemisphere. Now each of these cerebral hemisphere consists of two layers. Okay. It consists of two layers, the outer and the inner layer. Okay. Each cerebral hemisphere consists of two layers, the outer layer and the inner layer. Now outer layer is a layer of grey matter and is called as the cerebral cortex, while the inner layer consists of white matter. Okay. Now I would like to clear you that what does grey matter and white matter in neurology means. See, you all know that the central nervous system consists of neurons. Okay. And neurons have two basic parts, the cell body and the axon. These cell bodies of the neurons together will make up the grey matter, while the axons of the neurons will make up the white matter. Okay. Now after that, after these two layers, what else is present in each of the cerebral hemisphere is the basal ganglia. Now basal ganglia are large masses of the grey matter, and last structure which is present within each of these cerebral hemisphere is lateral ventricle. Now lateral ventricle is a C-shaped cavity, and it will form the cerebrospinal fluid, as well as it also contains the cerebrospinal fluid in it. Okay. Now finally, talking about the external features of the cerebral hemispheres. Now each cerebral hemisphere consists of poles, surfaces, borders, sulci and gyri. Coming to poles. There are three lobes present in the cerebral hemisphere: frontal lobe, the occipital lobe and the temporal lobe. Now see, this is over here the frontal bone is situated. So this is the frontal pole. This is the occipital pole, means the pole which is situated behind or which is present at behind of each of the cerebral hemisphere, and the lobe which is present laterally is the temporal lobe. Okay. Talking about the surfaces, there are three surfaces of each of the cerebral hemisphere. The one which you can see right now is the supralateral surface. Other than that is present the medial surface and the inferior surface. Talking about the borders. Now in total, each of the cerebral hemisphere consists of 6 borders: supromedial, superciliary, infralateral, medial orbital, medial occipital, and the inframedial borders. Okay. Talking about sulci and gyri. Now these convolutions which you can see in the diagram are what is called as sulci and gyri. Now what is the difference between these two? You see, sulci are a number of convolutions, means the bulgings which are present on the brain, on the surface of the brain, are the gyri, while the sulci are the fissures separating these convolutions. Now see, this region, this is the gyri, okay, and this region is also gyri, okay. Now these two gyri will be separated by the sulci. Now sulci is a depression or it is a fissure. Now the point comes that why so many of these convolutions are present on the cerebral hemisphere. The reason being is that you see the cerebral cortex, which I have already mentioned, that it is a outer layer of the grey matter which is present in each of the cerebral hemisphere. The cerebral cortex in case of human beings is highly extensive. Now, and the space which is available for its accommodation is very little. So, in order to accommodate the extensive cerebral cortex, the surface of the cerebral hemisphere gets folded a number of times so that its size reduces and it can easily be accommodated in the limited space which is available in the cranial cavity. Okay. Now a brain with highly convoluted cerebral cortex is termed as the GYRENCEPHALIC, while the one with a smooth cortex is called as LISSENCEPHALIC. Now see, this brain which you can see is highly convoluted with number of sulci and gyri. So this brain would be referred to as the GYRENCEPHALIC brain, while if there are no convolutions in it, such that the entire cortex is smooth. Like I'll just tell you. Now see in this figure, as you have no sulci and gyri on the cerebral hemisphere, so this type of brain is called as the lesion-cephalic brain. Okay. Now generally speaking, in higher animals and in human beings, the brain which is present is GYRENCEPHALIC, it is highly convoluted with number of sulci and gyri on it, while this type of lesion-cephalic brain, which is completely smooth such that the cortex is entirely smooth with no convolutions on it, is present in reptiles and birds. Okay. Now talking some more about the sulci and gyri. As I mentioned that the gyri are convolutions or the bulgings which are present. So these gyri consist of a central core of white matter, and this is covered by a layer of grey matter, the cerebral cortex. While on the other hand, talking about sulci, the sulci are the fissures and they will vary in depth such that they would vary from slight grooves to very deep fissures. Okay, so this was all about the gross introduction about the cerebrum. In next, we'll talk about the sulci and gyri which are present on the supralateral surface of the cerebral hemisphere. So if you liked my video, so do press on the like button, and if you have not subscribed to my channel till yet, so do subscribe to my channel Fundamental Studies, and also press on the bell icon for latest updates and notifications. Thank you.